Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for what is going to be another jam-packed daily cryptocurrency market update. And as always, if you are new to this channel and finding yourself on my videos for the first time today, don't forget to check out that subscribe button, because we drop an update just like this one around 1 p.m. UK time every single day to help you guys stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening within the crypto space, but also the broader markets. And that's exactly what we intend on doing in this video. So the first place we are going to be starting is by looking at the US government unleashing their hoard of Bitcoin that they seized from the Silk Road operation onto Coinbase. Now, this leads us to a likely conclusion. Why would they be moving it to an exchange? Well, it's likely to sell it. It's estimated to be worth, I think, something like $2.1 billion. I'm going to be sort of covering this and telling you guys what I think the outcome or bearing on the price of Bitcoin may be as a result of this. And tied in with this, we're then going to be looking at what we're seeing in regards to ETFs, and certainly what we saw in regards to Bitcoin ETFs back in March. We saw, I think it was $111 billion across all the ETFs in terms of volume. That is insane, ladies and gentlemen. That's 10% of $1 trillion. Remember, crypto and the ETFs have really only just launched. I think they've been around for a couple of months now, but we're seeing continued volume into them, and that's going to link up nicely when we talk about the Coinbase or the US government dumping potentially, and who's going to absorb that, and is there a reason to worry? And then we'll be talking about the fact you also have now a 2x Bitcoin spot product. There's going to be lots of other products that come from Bitcoin or derivatives that surround it. And then we're going to be looking at sort of traditional markets. Okay, so there was a simulation. I've not seen anybody covering this, but this is fascinating to me, and this is very relevant in regards to Bitcoin, crypto. It's why we're seeing gold do well. It's why we're going to see risk do well generally. There was a simulation, 1 million simulations done by Bloomberg, and one verdict came out for the US economy, and it's in regards to debt and the danger that lies ahead. And then we'll relate everything to the total 2, which is probably my favorite chart right now in regards to the altcoin market. I am predominantly in altcoins, not Bitcoin, even though we were some of the first people back through the door when Bitcoin was 15, 16K, and I have an entire group of people that can attest to that. We've always been more heavy in altcoins because we think they're going to outperform Bitcoin eventually, okay? Now, the Bitcoin dominance trade I could have played way better, having really called that bottom for Bitcoin pretty perfectly, but we didn't. We're not perfect on this channel. We don't claim to be so. We make mistakes just like everybody else. Was it a mistake? We'll see, given enough time. But we'll then look at the Bitcoin chart as well. But to start things off, guys, as I've really introduced everything, let's talk about what took place yesterday. And this is kind of hot off the press. So just in, US government transfers 30,174 Bitcoin worth $2.1 billion, which was seized from Silk Road to Coinbase. Now, this begs the question, why are they sending what was previously a dormant Bitcoin address? Why are they sending, or previously dormant Bitcoin, to Coinbase? Well, the conclusion that you have to come up with is that they are looking to sell it. Now, this, I have been, whether it's Mt. Gox, Silk Road, whatever confiscation it may have been, and the government have sold previously, by the way, Bitcoin. I have been around long enough to see loads of these stories come out, and there's always a doom and gloom headline that comes with the back end of them. However, I'm not bearish about this at all. I think that $2.1 billion is going to get completely absorbed with the guzzling institutions that provide spot Bitcoin ETFs. And this is why I wanted to look at ETFs and sort of the volume we saw in March to kind of put a little bit of things into perspective. So if the government just came out and dumped on the market, which they wouldn't do because there's not that much orders in regards to even Coinbase to absorb $2.1 billion. If they just dumped on the market, that would get, they wouldn't get quite as good a price as if they did an over-the-counter trade, which often doesn't affect necessarily the market as much, because sometimes what they'll do, Coinbase, who is the kind of custodian for all these ETFs, is they'll link people up. So they'll kind of already have a buyer for it, or they'll have a way that they're going to sort of work something out that would be good for both parties. So if they did dump onto the market, open market straight away, they wouldn't get a great fill on it. It would be quite hard to fill, actually. And we know that actually most exchanges are getting low on Bitcoin because of the guzzling that we're seeing. This is all pre-halvening, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, which we've not really even spoken to or spoken much about in depth. Zach XBT, great guy to follow. He is brilliant for exposing rug pulls. By the way, he's exposed many kind of crypto YouTubers and content creators and things like this for taking back-end deals. Luckily, we have never been on there and never will be. You know, we're I feel one of the more honest channels. It doesn't really bother me necessarily if people buy and sell or whatever they do with their own personal holdings. What I'm here to do is kind of be a steady hand in what can be quite a rough sea when it comes to the cryptocurrency space. But this is from Zach XBT. 30.1 thousand Bitcoin worth $2.1 billion of Silk Road's hack funds controlled by the US government is on the move right now. So they originally transferred 0.001 BTC worth $69. Now, are they trolling with that $69? I don't know, but very common. And I always recommend people do this in regards to if they're trying to send crypto around, do a test transaction. Transferred to Coinbase deposit address. So it's a test transfer, probably. You can see he discloses the hash and then also the Coinbase deposit address. And then there was an update actually not long after this initial post that said 1,999 Bitcoin worth $139 million transferred to Coinbase, same Coinbase Prime deposit address. So this is the US government that's now moving their hoard of Bitcoin. Are they going to dump it all at once? I think it's unlikely. If they are going to do that, it's likely going to be an over-the-counter deal, because the order books, I think even Coinbase would struggle a little bit with that. However, Coinbase will be wanting that Bitcoin, probably knowing the demand that's coming down the line and the demand we're already seeing. And I really don't think this is going to have too much of a bearing on the price of Bitcoin whatsoever. It may have a little bit of one in regards to speculation and people maybe selling in preempt of this. But largely, I don't think this is going to change the path that Bitcoin is on at all. And remember, Bitcoin is just consolidating around all-time highs. Lots of people saying, oh, this is the worst double bottom I've ever seen. Well, you could say that about any chart that gets to all-time highs. You know, I heard somebody on Real Vision actually talking about that this morning. So to lead on and sort of back up what I was just making in regards to I don't think that this is going to have too much of a bearing. This is March Madness. So this is from Eric Valentunas. Please go and follow this guy. I have no affiliation with him, but he has been fantastic in regards to keeping up to date on these Bitcoin spot ETFs. March Madness. Bitcoin ETFs traded $111 billion in March alone, which is about triple what they did in February and January combined. I added the months where only GBTC was on the market for further context. I can't imagine April will be bigger, but who knows? So yeah, you can take really two sides of this. You could say, you know, you've now set the bar really high for this month. Is it going to be as large? Potentially not, certainly going into March. He also posts great chart from Jeff Safe that shows how IBIT has just taken over the volume market share from GBTC, while all ETFs won in terms of being profitable hits. IBTC won the volume, yeah. So BlackRock were always going to have the lion's share of this. Also, just yesterday, actually, you had the first ever 2x and minus 2x Bitcoin spot ETFs hit the market from ProShares, and they are titled, or the tickers for them is BitU and SBIT. So short bit, Bitcoin up, I would imagine. Tickers could have been better. So very interesting. You are going to get lots of derivatives around all of this. They've not really seen that much volume thus far, and there is a fee of about 1% on it. So 95 basis points, just shy of 1%. I don't think this is really anything to worry about particularly. I think when you look at the markets, and I'm referring to the US government potentially dumping, we're primed, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just, there's a lot of things that we talk about on YouTube, and there's also things that we don't, because we don't want to sort of crowd too much information. We focus on the things that are important here in regards to technically what we see setting up. And this is the total market cap excluding Bitcoin. This is the altcoin market that we believe is going to go to $3.7 trillion. And I could show you a number of things that confluence this, like the Bitcoin chart and where we think that's heading, even though, you know, Bitcoin's got to be doing well to see the altcoins do well. And one that we haven't spoken about and don't see anybody also like the Total 2 speaking about is USDT dominance. So at the same time we're waiting for, and this is the right way up, the Total 2 to do something like this, and it's here right now. We're waiting for it to break. We're waiting for this to break down, which means that stablecoin dominance will be losing ground in relation to the market, which is bullish. I haven't seen anybody talking about this. This was actually spotted by one of my community members who want to join the community. Link in the description. Only a few spaces left, ladies and gentlemen. And we've spoken about a number of drivers. So we've spoken about what we think happens with debt markets, the fact that we think the Fed's coming in. And gold's been doing very well at the moment. It's very interesting how actually Bitcoin, you would expect to pull back against gold, given where it's at, become a technical trader. You know, this potentially could be setting up an even broader head and shoulder. You know, we've got a concession of them here that are all been sort of playing out. But gold's been doing well. We still think risks can do well. We think the liquidity cycle's on the uptick. There's a number of reasons why we've got this macro view on being bullish. And to kind of talk about that a little bit, I want to go over to Bloomberg.com. So this is 1 million simulations, one verdict for the US economy, debt danger ahead. Bloomberg economists ran 1 million forecast simulations on the US debt outlook. 88% of them showed borrowing on an unsustainable path. I don't know what the other 12% was doing, but the Congressional Budget Office warned in the latest projection that US federal government debt is on the path from 97% of GDP last year to 116% by 2023 or 2034, sorry. Higher than even World War II levels. The actual outlook is likely worse, and I believe so. So this is the great game. This is why Bitcoin is and has been such a success. Okay, and we can see this is the path that US interest payments alone are on. And this is why, if you understand the fiat systems, okay, this, without going too into detail with our macro outlook on how and some of the various elements that we use to derive that, like what we have for the dollar in that scenario, like what we have for bonds, like what we have for yields, you know, we're bullish on bonds at a time when they're going to be proliferating debt insanely. And the question is, well, who's going to be buying that? And what does that mean more broadly? Well, that's liquidity. This is why we've seen markets do well thus far, even though the central bank has been in QT, and their version of QT is just letting bonds run out, not dumping them. There's been a lot of stimulus in regards to the Treasury, in regards to other facets. And actually the Fed, that's set to continue. And actually, I think the Fed is now going to have to go back and be supportive of all that, because they can't allow the debt markets to fail. And in a time when debt is just getting money print to go brrr with debt, and remember, debt is the other side of money or actual currency. Currency comes into existence through debt. It's liquidity. It all kind of adds up with technically what we're looking at for crypto and the other markets. Remember, Bitcoin is an uptrend against them. But this is why I think gold's doing well. This is why things are doing well and going to continue to do well, because of the kind of backdrop of a extremely inflationary debt system, fiat system essentially. And Bitcoin is the arbitrage of that. And actually, it's very ironic that the US government is going and swapping Bitcoin for dollars, whereas actually the trade is the other way around. So just something really interesting. I've not seen anybody covering this simulation, but I thought this was interesting, obviously done by the Bloomberg economists. So that is really all we've got for you guys. I'm wishing you all a wonderful Wednesday. If you've enjoyed the content, like is greatly appreciated. So is a comment. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And on that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next one.